welcome to another episode of the Legacy Wealth Show. I'm pumped for today's episode. I got my good friend Ray Gonzalez and his wife Christy with us. And Ray and I met through a mastermind probably a couple years ago. Feels like a lot longer, right? We've been buddies for a long time, it feels like. And you know, obviously in masterminds, you want to take business to the next level, but Ray and I connected at a deeper level because of, we're both very family oriented, spouse oriented, wanting to take our relationships to the next level as well. So I wanted to have Ray and Christy on. They are rock stars, both entrepreneurs, and they have a podcast and that really helps entrepreneurs and their spouses take their relationship to the next level. So welcome, Ray and Christy. Appreciate you guys being here.
Thank you for having us. We're excited.
Awesome. So why don't you guys just give a little bit of background on high level on kind of who you are, where you're from, how you guys met, and kind of how the relationship has kind of worked out. Ray, give me a little bit of business background because this is a lot of entrepreneurs, real estate investors. You come from the real estate world, and then kind of how things have progressed. And then Christy, I'm going to turn to you. A lot of questions I want to go to you because what we don't get to hear a lot is the wife's perspective, right? The spouse's perspective of being married to a psycho entrepreneur like me and Ray, right? So I want to really hear about what that's like and how can we be better husbands and spouses. And because I know when the home life is good, then the business life is good and everything works in harmony that way. So I'm excited for that piece. But Ray, give me a little bit of background on some business stuff first, and then we'd love to hear about how you and Christy met too.
We started buying and holding in Connecticut. I was worked corporate for General Electric, and then we quit that. I quit that 2 or 3 years after that. Didn't like the corporate life, and then I started buying and holding some properties in Connecticut. Then I moved. I was born and raised in Florida, Miami, Florida, and it was just miserable out there. It wasn't my thing. I was miserable working in the corporate life, and it was a great job with GE on financial management. I did well there. It's just it wasn't my thing. So started buying some rentals, and then quit the job. Or two and a half years later, after I finished the program, they let me go. And then I realized I needed some cash in addition to go with the cash flow, because the cash flow was nice, but it wasn't enough to cover everything else. And you know, cash flow, some months is very well, and some months you've got some issues, right? So we started going ahead and wholesaling some properties up there in Connecticut. And then I just got miserable, tired, you know, before the 06 market changed, sold most of everything up there. The ones I kept kind of didn't do that well on, moved back down to Miami, still looking for solid cap rates at the time, 06, 07, couldn't find anything. So I started wholesaling out of my dad's 1-bedroom, you know the deal, right? So started wholesaling there by myself. And then a couple of years later, I grew into a little business. 07, 08, was still in the game, you know, took some lumps, but also learned how to make adjustments. So I've been through the cycle and made it out of the cycle. And it's interesting to see a lot of the same, we'll talk more about that, same things going on over again, a little bit different players, but just a lot of just real aggressiveness and not really paying attention to what's going on. Not that they're not deals, there certainly is, but am I taking too much risk for the return, right? So am I betting the farm on this one deal? So and it's when you see guys that are worth 50, 100 million go back to nothing, it's eye-opening, and it happens. So anyway, so I went through that, made it out of that. And then 07, 08, I met her. I was going to go to South Beach and pimp out my life and start, you know, living it up a little, you know. I was tired of the you know, and wholesale margins went from 20, 30 grand to 5. And I don't think people see that coming. And I said, you know what, we don't need this. So I started working on myself, you know, going to Tony Robbins events, working on, and then I met her and I was like, well, this pimp life is over. I only had a couple of weeks. And then she was a school teacher at that point. And then she saw kind of my life, that I didn't have to get up and go to work and et cetera. And they started to be unhappy, not with the kids, but with the whole system, the whole educational system and how they put pressure on teachers. And it really doesn't work. So she said, look, I'd like to quit. She went to an MLM. I think it was ACN. It was ACN.
Really?
Yeah. ACN, yeah. Yeah, it was ACN. So she went to ACN and I saw like a hunger and drive in there, and I saw her willing to communicate and really like, and I go, babe, we can do the ACN thing, or we can do the real estate thing where I've already paid 10,000 hours. It's not going to take us that long to get there, and we can get there faster. And then we went to a date with Destiny in Australia, and she made a decision that, you know what, I'm quitting. No plan B.
Tony Robbins event, right?
Tony Robbins event in Australia. And I think for her, that event, and she'll talk more about it, that event, like we went to Australia for 21 days when the US dollar was in the trash. And we spent 21 days there, like in a nice way. She's like, well, I could never do this teaching. And I said, all right, well, then if you want this to be part of your lifestyle, there's no right or wrong. But if you want to travel like this for 20, 30 days and go to higher end events, then we need to figure out the money piece to make sure that let's make the money piece adjust to our lifestyle piece. Whatever we want, we'll make the money to adjust to that lifestyle so we can live our legacy. There's one thing I talked to Joe Evangelisti about. It's like leaving a legacy and living your legacy. I want to do both. I want to live my legacy here and now, right? So she quit the job. We got on board. This is like 08, 09. And then we crushed it together. 09, 10, 11 was hard. We were adjusting. She had the employee mindset. We were still figuring it out. And, you know, we made a lot of mistakes, things that we would have done differently just based on her skill set and my skill set. But it made us stronger. It made us value money together. And it, you know, once we've been through all that, like what can't we go through? Like that's kind of what comes up. Even if we're having an issue now, we always, you know, link it back to even you, Tim, in some cases. You're like, dude, I dealt with this with 100 units myself. Forget team. I was doing 100 units and buying properties and like, you know, so it's like, this doesn't really faze me. Yeah, it might look like it's a big deal right now, but when you look back at your perspective and what you've been through,
Yep.
It's not that big of a deal.
Yep. I love it.
And then so now we sold everything, we built up the portfolio together. We built up 70, 80 units in Miami, built a wholesale fix and flip business, both wholesale and fix and flip. So we built up those 3 different businesses, sold everything in 2014, 15, 16, and 17. I think we sold our last one in 18. And then just got into lending and doing joint venture deals. So now we place capital with guys like you and other great operators. And we look to be as passive as possible. And let other guys do what we used to do, and they do it better, and we get to enjoy our life, and we're better at this for this season of our life right now.
I love it. And that's where I was going to go, is like what you're doing today. And I think a lot of investors go through this natural progression, right? We start out watching other people, and then we're watching it on TV, and then all of a sudden we either become a broker or we start wholesaling real estate. They start flipping real estate. And as soon as you get into flipping real estate, you're like, I need to get out of flipping real estate. And then you start getting into buy and hold stuff, and then a little bit larger buy and hold. And then eventually, man, I mean, for me, it's I think the lending game is where you want to end up. Like what you guys are doing right now, where you can passively invest. And when you control the money, you can control a lot of the deal and really scale a lot more than if you're an active operator, right? And so I think you guys are in an awesome spot. And Ray and Christy and I have done millions of dollars of deals together, transactions, short-term stuff mostly, but for several years now. And so we built a pretty good relationship, not only on the personal side, but also on the business side. So Christy, I want to switch gears to you and ask you a little bit about the transition, right? So you see this entrepreneur, this different mindset, a little bit out there, right? Like we're our 1, 2, 3% out there that everybody else says is crazy. Like what to you was the catalyst to say, oh, there is something more, or oh, you know, I don't have to go and fall into this same, you know, process that we're all educated to fall into of go to school, get good grades, get a good job, that kind of a thing. And then work for 40 years for somebody else in order to retire on less money than you couldn't already live off of for the first 40 years, right? So what were some of those things that like you saw that were catalysts for you, like that really were triggers of saying, hey, this makes sense? And what can entrepreneurs do to kind of, I don't know, I guess broaden the mindset and broaden the horizon for their spouses of saying, I think there's something more that we can do together. If you know, something changes, like I'm a big believer that, you know, 100% of the relationship falls on me. Right. So to say, you know, to try to get somebody or your spouse to change, I don't think is the right word, but how can you, I guess, support and how can I be a better spouse in order to also, you know, project better, lifestyle, I guess, for our family, if that's something that I so deeply believe in. Does that make sense?
Yes. I hope I can answer all of those questions.
just talk and we'll converse.
Starting from the beginning, I think that one of the biggest things that for me was an eye-opener was I was a teacher, he was in real estate, and we would come home and it was almost like there was no conversation based on teaching in real estate because he didn't understand me and my world, and I didn't understand him and his world. Like he would come and complain about, you know, a tenant not paying or something. I'm like, who cares? Like, I just got yelled at by 5 parents, and, you know, and it was just this huge disconnect that, I don't know why we early on saw that, and we're like, well, we like, obviously we had other things to talk about, but when it came to our careers, which is such a huge part of it, there was nothing to talk about. Like, he didn't get it.
You're going down a path, but in 2 different vehicles.
Yeah.
Right? You're not together.
And think about all the time that you spend at work, right? So for me, it was 8-9 hours. For him, it was, you know, nonstop, right? Entrepreneurs don't stop. And there was just like a disconnect. Like, we didn't understand each other. And I don't know how and when we figured that out, but it was pretty early on. And the second part of that was, while I was in ACN, I did ACN before joining the real estate side. I had a good friend of mine who joined as well, and her husband was just not supportive. I mean, he was like, that's stupid. Don't do that crap. Why are you wasting your time? Like, it was to the point where she would like come in every day in tears. We were both teaching at the time. She was my partner in the school, in the classroom. And it was just horrible. Like, it broke my heart. So those 2 were like probably the biggest eye-opening, you know, situations for me, where it was like, okay, we don't understand each other. We're not communicating. Like, he doesn't get it. I don't get it. There's no support, right? Because I can't support him in something that I really don't get. It's difficult, right? It's like, I can be like, oh, I'm sorry you had a bad day, but that was the end of it. You know, I couldn't pitch and catch with him. He couldn't help me with my, you know, my stuff with the kids. Like, it was just a really big disconnect. And then the support side, right? Like, not being able to really be there for him, and vice versa, was hard. Like, it was like, okay, we're dating for like 2 or 3 years, and it's already feeling like, you know. So those were the 2 biggest ones. And then the third part for me, which was huge, was the personal development. Like, once we started really getting deep into, like you said, like 100% me, like, it was all about me fixing my stuff, and not fixing, but really realizing what was going on and who was running the show, and for him as well. And when we started doing that together, that was like just the end. Like, it was just awesome. Like, it was a game changer for us, because it felt like, okay, now we're really taking responsibility for ourselves. I don't have anything negative to say to him that is not somehow a reflection in me. So it's like, how is this about me? How am I making it? You know, and so those 3 things together, I think, was kind of the shift, right? The shift that made us realize, okay, like, either we fix this now, or this is going to be pretty much the end of the relationship. Like, it got to that point where it was just kind of like, what's the point? Like, it wasn't a bad relationship, but it was, once we started the personal development, we started seeing like what was possible, like a Tony Robbins and Sage, like, you know, all these amazing relationships. And it was like, how are we going to get there? Well, we need to figure this out together. And then, so once I did get into, I quit teaching. It took about 6 months for us to transition. So it wasn't like one day to the next. But it was February 2012. I put in my resignation, and another huge thing for us was, I put in a resignation. Everybody was telling me, all my family, all my friends, all the people that love me were like, just take a year leave. Let's see what happens. And we had the conversation, and it was like, we're all in or we're not. And so that for me was huge. Like, I get
burn the ships, right?
Yeah, burn the boats. And it was what I think made the difference. It was
so at this point, what I think is really important is the personal development aspect. I think everything comes from mindset, right? And I've noticed this big time in my wife as well. I forget what the test was, but it was something along the lines of like, what your driving forces are. Is it like growth oriented? Is it, I can't, oh man, we took it, I don't know, like a year ago. And I didn't even realize this, but my wife was like very growth oriented. She's very like, she's a stay-at-home mom. And what she was really yearning for is making an impact, making a difference. And she wasn't getting that growth being a stay-at-home mom. And so, the personal development stuff, I gave her a couple of books. Hey, this one made a big impact on me, Kate. Do you want to read it? Yeah. Okay. She reads it. She wants more. And then she starts listening to the podcast, like the Rachel Hollis podcast. Right. And then she goes to the Rise conference just a few months ago, and it's like totally different. Like, our relationship's totally different. Amazing. Right. And not saying it was bad. It was just flat kind of before, like you were saying. And I think the personal development side of things, if your spouse is, shows any any shimmer of wanting desire for personal development, which you obviously did, Christy, through ACN, which is amazing. I think multi-level marketing and network marketing companies are really good from a personal growth and personal development standpoint. It's where I got a lot of mine too. I was in ACN for a couple of years, and just realized that from an industry standpoint, I could make more money and make a bigger impact elsewhere. And I really, really loved real estate. But a lot of the personal development stuff that I've come through came from network marketing. So I see that. And then obviously you had a desire to go to like some of the Tony Robbins conferences. And you think that was probably a catalyst of saying, hey, here's what else is possible, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think doing it together too is huge. Like we still go to I had my mastermind, he's got his. We do things separate, but when I did. I joined a female one for about a year. Okay. But it was more like branding and that kind of thing. But just obviously all the personal development stuff embedded in there is amazing. And yeah, I think it's just being able to have those kind of conversations. And I think people not confused, but they complicate personal development. It's really just getting to know yourself better. And that can be through a book. It can be through a podcast. It can be through meditation. It can be through so many things. And for me, it was yoga. Like I started doing yoga, and it just like, I started having all these things start coming up, and I'm like, what's that about? What's that about? And just getting curious. And it doesn't have to be a 6-day insane, crazy Tony Robbins event that we did, which we both I ended up getting sick. It was just all these emotions going all over the place. But it can just be as simple as sitting by yourself in nature for 10 minutes. Like, it's just getting to know yourself and really quieting enough to say, okay, what's coming up? What's here? And it sounds, woo woo, and it sounds all this, but it's the most amazing thing you can do for yourself. Yep. And you don't have to complicate it,
Clear. And I think probably one of the biggest, maybe the biggest factor to success in anything that nobody ever talks about is self-awareness, and personal awareness, and just like looking at a situation and then reflecting on the situation and thinking about the situation, thinking why you thought that way about that situation, and just being aware is one of those things that I think you're talking about, Christy. And just, that's why people meditate, right? That's why people do yoga. That's why, like, for me, it's exactly what you're saying, is take a run in the woods. I take a walk in the woods, and it just like clears everything. Some people take notes and clear their head on just, on a notepad of paper every single morning, and just put their thoughts out there. And even if they just burn it when they're all done, it just gets it out there and just gets it off your chest, and it just makes you more aware of what's going on. So that's powerful stuff. So how did it, so now tell me a little bit about what you're doing, Christy. Obviously you guys have the podcast, and you work in the business a little bit with Ray too, right?
Yeah. I do most of just like the accounting, like the day-to-day accounting stuff. Right now, and he's doing more of the actual placement and the paperwork that goes along with that. And I think
but you do a lot of the emotional management for me.
Well, I think that's what I was going to say. I think going back to
he's more emotional than most female, like the most wives, right? Like
a little bit. I'm like, relax.
He's so personally aware. He's so self-aware that it's like, it's almost detrimental, right?
Yeah. Well, I think going back to...
I love it, man. I always have real deep conversations with you, brother. I love it.
But I think going back to the beginning when we first started working together, one of the biggest shifts that I had in the first 2 years was I started coming to the business the way I saw him. Like the way he would show up in business is how I would show up in business, because I thought, well, that's the way I have to, because I was a teacher and now I'm a business owner and now I'm a boss to these people. I have to show up. I thought that was the only way to show up, right? And that was like terrible, because I was miserable and I was just losing that whole femininity and that whole mothering side and just that feminine side of things. So I think that was a big thing for us in really being able to same thing, personal assessment tools, personality tests. We started going through all that. We started really getting to know each other, and like, oh, you're good at that. I'm good at that. So that's how we started to finally, and the first 2 years was also me learning the business, because I had no idea about anything about real estate. We were doing like REOs and all these things that just none of it made any sense to me. So I think it was good to, like, I would do some cold calls, and he would be like, what are you doing? I'm like, you told me to do this. We were going on appointments together and all this stuff. But after that, initial learning process, we started realizing, okay, I'm good at some things and you're good at some things. And when we put them together, it's amazing. Like, he doesn't like accounting. He doesn't like QuickBooks. I love it. I think organizing things and seeing things on a spreadsheet is just like, it's amazing.
Same way, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the, let's go talk to people. Let's go make things happen. Let's go, you know, so once we figured that out, which is kind of where this whole thing of both on board started coming from, it was like, when we're both on doing what's best, what's good, what I'm great at and what he's great at, and we put that together, it's magic, right? It's amazing. So I think that was a big part of us being able to work together. So now when you say, what do we do? Where it's like, well, I'm good at this. I'm not so great at going out and networking. I need my alone time. I like to learn things and study things and put things together. Let's go out there. Let's go talk to people. Let's go connect. Like, he doesn't talk to someone on the phone for 2 hours. He's like, I gotta go call somebody. Like, we gotta figure, like, and it's amazing and valuable. And I realized it's not my thing. Like, I like being in my room. I like, you know, writing and that. So it's just figuring that out. And that comes through a lot of personal development as well. Like you said, the awareness that I need my downtime, or I need whatever I need, and he gets to do whatever he gets to do. And then we get to, like, now that he understands me and I understand him at a deeper level, it just makes everything a lot smoother.
I think one thing that might be challenging for the guys on the call is to giving her the space and the freedom, because you're so used to controlling, for lack of a better term, what we do, how we do it. Like, giving her the space has been one of the hardest things I've done, to figure out what she wants and figure out her way, but ultimately trusting that we're going to end up on the same road of alignment, as long as it's personal development. It could be Kabbalah, it could be yoga, it could be whatever she wants. I think the biggest thing for guys too is I didn't force her into this. The first gift I gave her was a Tony Robbins 30-day personal power. I mean, I might have had some Laker tickets in there. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? A little incentive, you know what I mean? This is the Kobe days, you know?
Yeah.
But she actually went through it and she started to write things down. And then I said, all right, she's open. And then that to me said, all right, there's an opening. You don't want to ever force anyone to do this. And then the other thing she said is, as we got together now, there's a lot of alignment. And once there's alignment between the relationship, you could alignment and enrollment. Like, she knows where we're going. We know we're both lifestyle piece. Hey, we want to up our lifestyle. All right, baby, what has to happen to make that happen? How are we doing it together? But there's enrollment of, like, she doesn't do a course without letting me know what the course is about and what the commitments are, because she's going to need me to step up with Valentina. And you know what I mean? So there's a lot of, and I'm supportive of her. And at the same time, does it make sense? She could bounce that rate. Does that make sense anymore for you to go? Why are you going to that? And sometimes it doesn't. I'm just going because it was a thing I do. Yep. And vice versa. Babe, why are you going to that now? Does that even make sense to go? So, or the other way, hey, babe, you're on it. I'm going to support you. I've got to take Valentina with me Tuesday, Wednesday night. I'm in. All right, cool. Let's do this.
Yep.
But just that what we really want to help couples with is get that alignment where they're supporting each other and they're both heading towards the same targets as a couple.
I love it. I love it. So 2 things I want to hit on. One is from an awareness standpoint of realizing that opposites attract, you know, magnetism, positive energy, negative energy attracts, right? And not necessarily negative in a negative aspect. I'm just being positive and negative in a magnet, right? And but you guys have the same dynamic as Kate and I, right? And so Kate's very spreadsheet oriented, data analytical, organized. I create chaos, she creates order, right? Not saying that I couldn't do those things, not saying that Christy couldn't get in front of a room and speak to a large group, or not saying that Ray couldn't put a spreadsheet together. It's just, that's not a driving activity. It's more of a drainer, and it takes a lot of energy to, like, get past that, right? And it takes a lot more time to get past that. And so one of the things that we did is just a DISC analysis. Mm-hmm. And a DISC assessment, DISC, and you find out where you are. I'm very high D, high I. I'm sure, Ray, you're the same way. You know, and Christy, you're probably SC, right? Which is very much where Kate is as well. Yeah. And that's important not only in relationships, but also in business partnerships, which you happen to be business partners. But my COO is very high DC, you know, and it complements a lot of the things that you know, I'm not good at or don't want to do, or just are not a driving factor for me. So that's a big help. Just Google search DISC assessment, and it's free.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great resource. I think one of the things too, you said your business partner, dude, who is your number one business partner? Is your wife. Mm-hmm. How many guys have we seen guys, I'm going to build this legacy. I'm going to build, I'm going to get to 2,000 units, and then they get a divorce.
Yep.
Good luck with that. If your number one relationship and your partnership is the one at home.
Yep. Dude, if that's not going well, nothing else is going to go well, right? You're not going to have good business relationships. You're not going to have good health. Like, everything else falls apart.
This is a foundational piece.
So tell me about, how is it now working together? So you didn't work together. Like, it's kind of flat from a relationship standpoint. You got together, you talked about social stuff, but not really, you couldn't connect on work stuff. Now you work together. I think some people have a concern of, if I work with my wife, or I jump into her business, or she jumps into my business, or we partner up and start a new business, whatever that looks like, then that's all we're going to be talking about. It's going to consume then our personal life. But to me, becoming more self-aware, it seems like you're able to connect at a deeper level, and just goals and everything else on the social side then falls into place. Is that what you guys have seen?
Yeah, I think one of the things too, just to point out as well, because we happen to work together, like that's just our situation. But then at the end of the day, husbands and wives, like, or partners, couples, you're working together to build a home and a family. And so it's like, no matter what the situational, setup is, like, you're still working together. So I think that in this happens, this is good for anyone that's like, whether you're working together, whether you're separate businesses, whether one's an employee or stay-at-home mom. Like, I think it's just a conversation that it's ongoing for everyone. So I just wanted to point that out, because a lot of people tell us that. It's like, oh, but you guys work together, it's different. I'm like, no, it's not, because we still have to run a household, we still have to raise a child, we still have to pay bills. Like, it's all still very much in alignment with, wanting to be on the same page and on the same team with each other to make a great life, no matter where you work or where your income comes from. So
if anything, it's harder working together because there's more.
Well, right. So then that's what I'm saying. So then working together then brings a layer of complexity. Is a good word. And what I think happens with us, obviously it works different for everyone, but one of our things is it's all life. Like, it's all integration. Like, it's all part of it. Like, if we don't put this deal together, then we have to figure out, okay, where are we going to make ends meet? Like, it's all one thing. So I don't think we ever really built boundaries. We didn't build like hard things, but we built boundaries, right? We wanted to create a space where we could disconnect, where we could connect at a deeper level, where we could connect with our daughter. So we kind of played with it in a way where when things were feeling off, it was like, okay, I need some time off. Like, I need some downtime. I'm going to go I'm going to go to a yoga class, or, Ray goes for his masterminds. He takes a couple of days off, and then we kind of like, okay, so I think it's different for everyone, but you have to figure out something that works for the two of you, because he could talk about loans all day and tell me, and I get to a point where I'm like, okay, enough. Like, that's it. Yep. Like, and not come from a, like, shut up about it, but just, okay, right now I'm thinking about Valentina's school, or I'm thinking about what we're going to eat for dinner. So I really don't, so you have to play with it. I think it's like an art, I think it just comes, it starts to come more naturally the more you do it. Mm-hmm. And then the other part too is
and also it changes.
Yeah.
Like, as your seasons change now, babe, I want to spend more time with Valentina. How does that look like? Can someone, who's going to step off so I can step up? And then who's going to help me on these other things? Can you pick the groceries up? Can you do some other things here? Who can we get to support us so that I can actually go spend more time with her? Mm-hmm. And had I not enrolled there, it wouldn't have been, but in the past, like, that wasn't a big deal for me. But now it's become so different.
You didn't set expectations, you're saying, kind of thing.
Yeah. And then have those talks often. And the other thing we've worked, like, kind of like boundaries, if you will. We have certain rules. Like, for example, if I want to send her an email on something, or to pay something or something like that, it's an email. I don't send her a text. I don't interrupt her. So understanding what the boundaries are, and if it's something urgent, then I come in and talk to her. But we set up times for things. There's weekly meetings. We meet. We sync up. There's a weekly meeting for the podcast. We have weekly meetings for accounting. There's set up times and structure where we just meet, and we find that's a lot better. There's a structure for what days we're going to live in this house and what days we're going to live in the other house. Right. So, and that just like creates, all right, cool, I got it. Because I can play within the structure, and there's value in that. And then the other thing that's worked well for both of us is lanes and roles. Valentina's schooling, that's her lane. She's an old school teacher. She's better at it. She's the one talking to the teachers. Like, that's her thing. Now I'm here. Hey, babe, do you want to change school? I support the loans. It's my thing. I come to her for, hey, babe, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? But that's my lane. So, and then there's some things we do together, like the nutrition piece and that kind of stuff, the health piece. But figuring out who's within the 5 F's, right? Finance, who's doing what and when, and who owns that lane, and then who's playing second fiddle. And if it's together, then what does that look like? I just think a lot of clarity just relieves the stress. Like, I know what's going on. We have set schedules. I know there's going to be a time to talk about this. So I'm not just bringing it up before we go to bed. I mean, that used to be terrible. We used to talk about it before we go to bed. I got to fire this employee. And then I go, babe, new rule. We talk about the employee 3 times in bed, they're gone. I do not want to be talking about employees in bed.
No. So do you guys shut off the business side of things, or you don't need to because you set such clear parameters and expectations and you have your time set aside for discussing those kinds of things? Do you even try to shut it off, or it's cool nowadays?
I think that with the organization and with the boundaries, it's not necessary to shut it off, because it could just come up like out of, a conversation that we're having and we start talking about something. But I think that with the schedule that we have, like Mondays we do check-ins, Tuesdays we do podcasts, Thursdays we do accounting. Like, since we're so clear on our commitments to each other, and that came with time. Like, at first it was obviously just a big mess. Since we're so clear on our commitment, and like just setting up that time to say, okay, at this time we're going to talk about this. And if you have something to say and it's not, obviously the business isn't going to blow up. Okay, I'm going to write this down and then we'll talk about it on Monday in our check-in. Oh, I have something that I need you to pay. Okay, I'm going to send you an email. When I go on Thursday to check my email, everything will be there. So it's organizing your time in a way where these urgencies aren't, like, they don't happen, like it's just little by little. Like, obviously there might be something like, oh, this guy calling me in a deal last minute and we need, this money. And
10 bucks.
I know exactly what road that's going down. All right. Hey.
We may talk about you sometimes in bed. But it's like, it happens, right? But is it the norm? No. Is it something that we're like, you said that you were going to talk to me about? Like, no, because it's part of our life and we both understand that. It's just, it comes with the territory, right? Things are going to maybe go sideways. Septic tanks are going to blow up during Labor Day weekend and there's a hurricane and the septic tank blows up. Like, it happened a few days ago, and it's just, we got to talk about it because we got to fix it because our tenants are unhappy. And so we try to keep it as contained as possible. And yes, sometimes things happen. If we go out flexible. Yeah, like if we go out with friends, like friends that have 100, like a good friend of ours, they've got 100 units, 100 rental properties. We talk about business. Like, it's just fun for us. Like, we like it, we enjoy it. And then it comes a time where Bray and him keep talking about business and we go and talk about kids. And it's building it all into one thing, because when you compartmentalize too much, it just feels cut off and it feels stressful and it doesn't feel good. It feels like,
remember, we tried that.
We
tried it. It didn't work.
Yeah.
So it's an art of figuring out what works for you. And just knowing that it'll change. Like, it just changed. Like, I thought it was going to be that way forever. I go, no, look, now Valentina, and me spending a lot of time with Valentina at this age, teaching her how to swim and stuff like that is really important. So we just had to make adjustments.
Give me a tangible, like, how do you guys structure your week? Give me like the actual structure or what that looks like. So that way you say, hey, from a high level, these are the meetings that we need to have. Here's the days that we have them. Like, how did you guys put that together? Just let me know what yours looks like. I'm trying to get a picture because we're talking very high level type stuff. Now, right. How do we implement it, right? How do we put it into practice? So if you can give me an example of like how you guys do yours. So Mondays you do your weekly meetings, Tuesdays you do your podcast. Walk through your week with me.
So I think that it kind of, we can go through too, because what we remember of when we did have the office, because it was obviously very different. So now we work from home. We've got the loans, we've got the podcast. It's a lot less hours, right? So Sunday night, it's just his thing. He does his plans. He plans his whole week. I'm more like of an ongoing person, but he likes to sit Sunday nights and then as I'm taking care of Valentina, doing whatever, we kind of have a little discussion. Oh yeah, I have that going on. I look at my calendar, I see what's going on. We kind of sync up calendars to know what's going on through the week. And that's usually like on a Sunday afternoon, Sunday night.
That's a 10-minute talk. Hey, babe, do you have this meeting? Do you have this? Like, I'm looking to see what her big rocks are and what mine are. And then if I have to change time with Valentina. That's it.
Is that for the week, for the month?
Usually for the week. Yeah, we like to keep it week.
Hey, is grandma coming in to take her? What night is grandma taking her? Are we having a day date for us? Are we staying over somewhere else so we can have some alone time for us? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. And then Monday about midday is our sync up. Like, it's like anything and everything we need to talk about to get things done, to get things rolling, to make sure we're heard and we feel supported. Like, hey, I've got this going on Wednesday. I need you to take the baby because I have a call. All that, like, real, like, concrete things that we need to do to make our week successful. And then that includes anything on board. Like right now I'm taking a couple of courses on the stuff with the podcast and our coaching program, and that kind of thing that we're developing. So we kind of meet up about, and that's usually about an hour and a half, usually about 90 minutes. Then Tuesdays we commit to our podcast. So we try to do it at least every other Tuesday. but usually it's every Tuesday, 12 to 3. We've got our podcast recordings and we talk about anything and everything that has to do with Both on Board, anything that has to do with podcasts, anything that has to do with other people's podcasts. So like, obviously he came to me yesterday and was like, Tim wants to do it tomorrow morning. Can we do it? I'm like, okay. But for the most part,
I create chaos. Christy, it's your job to create order. You're creating order right now.
My favorite.
Yeah.
Then Thursday.
Well, hold on. Let's talk about that one thing. If there's something on your list to do, guys, that you guys are doing in a meeting, for example, and she's not feeling it, like she's off, baby, you know what? Valentina didn't sleep well. I'm just not feeling right. Give each other the permission not to be so strict. Now, if it has to happen, has to happen. But there's a lot of things that we've designed in our life that don't have to happen. We could reschedule. You and I rescheduled this podcast a few times. Just it wasn't feeling good. Yep. So if someone doesn't feel good, meaning like they're not being their best, they're not going to be able to be their best, you're better off changing it, because you're better off doing it when you're both at your best. And again, maybe still do it that day, but maybe go to the gym or meditate, whatever. Just give yourself that freedom where both of you can show up at your best.
That's a great point. And things are only as important as you make them, right? It's only as important as we create them in our own life. Mm-hmm. And when you step back, you realize, is this really that important? Most things are not, So why create the additional stress in your life, or stress with your spouse, or stress with your kids, when it's really not that important, right? It's only as important as we give it, as we allow it to be, or it can be not as important as we want it to be, right? I think there's definitely
urgency too, man. I think a lot of times for me, she's much better at than I am. At times I would make things urgent, but that was just me creating the urgency to feel significant. It was BS.
Yeah. That's a great point. No, that's good. So sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but
and then
Wednesday, the podcast.
Right. No, Tuesday podcast.
Yep,
and then
Tuesday
Thursday
podcast
is our accounting day. Whatever needs to get done, usually about 3 hours. And that's when we do most of the bulk of things. And then obviously this week it's the beginning of the month, so it's a little bit more heavy.
Right.
Yep.
And then that's when Ray tells me, oh wait, I've got this opportunity. Look at what's going on. What do you think? Let's have a conversation. Let's look at the markets. Whatever that is more like a business day. And it's usually about 2 to 3 hours, depending on what we needed to discuss.
Well, we go through everything. We go through the accounting, like hey, what came in, what came out, what the loans are doing. Hey, are we looking to buy life insurances? Like what's going on week to week that's going to affect how we fund our lifestyle.
Yep.
And again, I know that in this role, I'm making a lot of the decisions, but dude, it feels so good just to know that she is aware of what's going on and she's aware of the risk. And it feels to me like, dude, we're a team doing this. And look, we made a decision together. If it goes sideways, it goes sideways, but we made a decision together, and it just takes a lot of stress and emotional stress off me. And sometimes just a second perspective, more like, Ray, I see your energy is not great when you're talking about that person. You said you didn't want to do more of those deals, because a lot of times guys like you and me, Tim, will violate our own system and procedures to get something done. Yes. And we're in here versus here. Yep. She's really living here, which is a lot better for me, because ultimately you and I do well when we live here, not here.
Yep.
So, guys, I was pointing to my heart and my head. So those are the audio. Yeah. So when you live from the heart, it's very, very different. When you connect without an agenda, it's very, very different. I mean, that's how Tim and I first connected. It wasn't about money. It was an agenda-less. Hey, how can I help? How can I help? And we both have that same servant heart. And yet if it was transactional, I don't think either one of us would do business, and much less at the speed at which Tim likes to do business. So that's something where she helps out. So on the accounting, it's not just accounting. We call it accounting, but it's really how we fund our lifestyle, new opportunities, how we mitigate risk, what loans are going sideways, where's money not, what's supposed to come in, what's not supposed to come in. And what it creates is, if something were to happen to you, like she knows about the life insurance, she knows where the money is, she knows that she could take this over and it wouldn't be like, where am I? And then the other thing it's created on the accounting piece, which I think is huge for the guy's perspective, maybe not so much for the women, is as we built this together, we start to value money together and how it's going to be spent and how it's going to be invested in our joy as well too. So we know the value because we built it together, and she had certain money blueprint and so did I. And as we've grown this piece together, there's been a lot of alignment. So what I really want to share with you guys is, I think for me as a man, it's been the biggest piece is that she knows about how to delay gratification. If we said, hey, baby, stop all spending, she knows she's on board. Like there's no, you know what I mean? So that's for me, guys, like that's been the number one thing in terms of the alignment is on this money side, where I know she's not going to go out and, do something that's not in alignment with what we do. Like she's gonna, you know what I mean? And I don't have to watch her. I don't have to, you know what I mean? Yep. So it's really, I see some relationships where they're not right or wrong. I'm just saying the woman or the male, they're two different people, and one is that it creates a bunch of tension. I don't know if you've seen it, Tim, but and it's really a lot of tension. It's like it doesn't need to be there if you guys have those money values aligned. And the thing is, no one's talking about it.
Yep. Yeah. Kate, like that was one of the things that really attracted me. My wife, she already had it. Like we didn't have a discussion about it. She was already very frugal, didn't spend money, didn't like spending money. She likes nice things, but she will save it up and she'll have it on her vision board for a year or a year and a half before she actually goes out and gets it. And so that's been, you take a look, like most relationships that end up in divorce are like, what is it? 50, 80% of them, whatever, come from a financial perspective, right? Because the money blueprints aren't aligned, like you said.
Just to add with the check-ins, I think the biggest part of the check-ins beyond the tactical stuff that needs to get done and all that, I think it's just feeling connected in a way where it's like, I feel heard, he feels heard, we feel supported. And that's how we go into the conversations. Like yes, it's about business. Yes, it's about the podcast. Yes, there's to-do lists and things need to get done. But beyond that, and I think that's why it's important for people to figure out what works for them. Beyond that, it just feels like, okay, we're on the same team. We're on the same page. I get what he's about. I get what he's doing. I get what he's going through. And it's not, in a year when we're checking in with each other, it's like, what, I didn't know all that was going on, right? And people have conversations like that all the time. When you do it weekly, at least once a week, if not two or three, it just builds that camaraderie. It builds that connection. It builds that support where that you're on the same page, And
so the accountability too, baby. Like, hey, I want to go to yoga twice a week. Baby, what can I do to help you? Because I know that yoga is important to you. I've seen what it does when you go. What can I do to support you? And then for me, like, I want to go to yoga at least once a week. All right, well then what does that look like? Can I take Tina what night? So it just really helps create a team. And then you can just see where the holes are. Like for us recently, we had a hole in terms of like, babe, what's up with us? Like we're not spending a lot of like alone time together. We're spending a lot of time together with Tina or me with Tina, but what's up with us? All right, cool. Cut Wednesday, middle of the day, we're rolling. Yep. Her and I. Mom, we shifted mom from Thursday to Wednesday. I go, her and I, we're rolling to the other place and just you and me for at least a day. If we want to stay over, we stay over. If we want to just come back, we come back. But her and I spend the day together. There might be a call here or a call there. She's got to do it on Wednesday. But the majority of the day, it's just her and I together.
I love it.
So you get to see where you're off on those 5 Fs.
I love it. So tell me a little bit about where does Valentina fit into the whole thing? So how do you guys spend time with her? How do you guys designate time with her? How are you raising her with the same mindset and principles that we've had to work so hard for over our adult lives? And like one of the big things for me is how do I instill these achievement or mindset type principles? Like whether they want to go build a $1 billion business or my kids want to go and be do whatever they want to do. They want to be artists, right? They want to be ballet dancers. I don't care as long as, they're striving to be better in everything that they do and trying to be the best at that, right? And not settling for mediocrity and something that they know that they can achieve higher and be greater at. So like, how are you guys instilling those values? Tell me a little bit about the time that you spend with Valentina, and then let's talk a little bit about like those values that you're instilling in her too.
So time-wise, it's a little different every week, but for the most part, I spend the mornings with her. Ray goes to the gym. Then usually either he'll pick her up or we'll pick her up together. Ray has his Tina Tuesdays, which is
now changed because she's got a meeting on Tuesday.
Right now it's Tina Wednesdays or Tina Thursdays.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but he has a night with her, and I think that's something that we read that someone told us a long time ago, like having individual time. And I think with you, Tim, it's even more because you've got 2.
Yep.
You want to make sure you have individual time with each of them as well, and Kate too. So having that individual time, me individual time with her, and then the 3 of us together, and then having us time, which is where is she? So she's usually with my mom or his mom or someone. So I think it's important to mix that up. Like this morning, I took her to school earlier because we started today at 9. And I took her to school a little bit earlier, and I was like kind of sad. I was feeling like, oh, I'm going to miss you. And she just like walked in just like, all good. So she really loves her school. I think for me, that's a huge thing being a teacher. It was like, I want to make sure that it's a great school that I feel comfortable with, that she's happy in. Like if she's kicking and screaming on the way out the door, I mean, maybe something's wrong. Like maybe some kids are just like that, but for her, like she gets up, she gets dressed, she eats, she goes, like so that's been huge for us, making sure that her schooling is on point and that she's happy with it and that we see progress. And I think beyond that, I think for parenting, I think the biggest thing for us has been the language that we use with her. So how we speak to her. And for me, as a mom, like remembering she's not a baby, she's a person. Like that is huge for me. And sometimes I forget because it's like, we want to get them to do, what we're doing and how we're doing it and do it this way. And they're people, right? They're people that come with their own stuff and their own agenda and whatever you want to believe. Like she's a person. She's not my daughter. She's not mine, right? We're raising her for the world, for society. So for us, language is huge. How we speak to her, how we explain things to her. Sometimes she has her tantrums and she has her moments and we let her have them. Like, okay, like you're just having a bad moment, just like adults have bad moments. And just like, everybody has. So I think giving her that space to be a person has been huge. And the other part is leading by example, like how we are, like everybody knows that it's like a corny quote, but it's like kids don't do what you say, they do what you do. And I think that's huge for us. Like yesterday, she brought out the twisters. She's like, let's stretch. Let's do jumping jacks. And, oh, daddy, you forgot your water bottle. And, like, it's just, that's what she sees. Like, that's what she's been raised with. And
daddy, let's meditate.
Yeah. And is she going to be exposed to some limiting stuff? Like the other day, she spent a few too many days with other family members. And she came home saying, I'm scared. Yeah. I'm like, what? What do you mean you're scared? You're brave. Your name is Valentina. That's, and just like giving her that contrast. And at the end of the day, letting them choose, like you said, like you want to be a ballerina, you want to be, whatever you want to be is fine. But like know what that entails. And obviously not now, but in the future, like, okay, yeah, you want to be this and you want to make sure that you can support yourself and that you can be happy, right? So happiness is a big thing for us. There's all these things that come in that we get to model and we get to, through language, just communicate with her. So I think that's the biggest.
And then the biggest and the hardest thing at least for me, guys, was actually walking your talk, right? Because hey, I'm spending a lot of quality time, but am I really? Well, I have to let go of the phone. All right, so now it's no phone with her and hours. Like me, and am I great at it? Am I ideal? No, but it's getting better and better, and our connection has grown. Yeah. Like so much so that sometimes she'll just ask her daddy, no, mommy, and like mommy's like, what? Like what's going? It's been a reversal. Yeah. And that can only happen when you make that investment. So, when Tim shows, legacy, I think part of the legacy is actually living it. And living it is me going to the gym with her, with Tina. We go to the gym sometimes together. We also run together. We play, we race together. So these competitive things with her and herself, I'm teaching her as we do things, but she's also seeing me do it. Me bring my water bottle. Oh, daddy, you forgot your weight vest to go run. Oh yeah, baby, thank you. And so we do these things together and, we meditate together at times. So she's seeing me live it, and that's been the biggest influence than anything I could say. And she's seeing me kind of, I got this from you, Tim, so thank you. Leave the freaking phone. Like, stop that and just really be present. So now she's saying, all right, daddy doesn't have the phone. He doesn't have his ear things. It's confusing her like this, so to me, that's the biggest piece of legacy is what kind of dad you're going to be.
It's powerful, man. I mean, it's not leaving treasure and money and estate to your kids. It's leaving the mindset, right? Leaving those principles, leaving, instilling in them to be better and to make an impact and be a positive influence on society. And we can only do that if they're watching us do that, right? They're watching us make an impact. And just to your point, Ray, the whole time blocking thing, which is what I'm hearing you guys say. You guys block time for each other. You guys block time for Valentina. You don't double book with a podcast or with an appointment or with a phone call. Like you time block, just like we do in business. You time block for your family. You time block for your kids. You time block for your spouse. And that was a massive difference and a change in how I structured my life, and relationships are better. And I become more efficient in business because now I'm not wasting time on stupid stuff that's not urgent, not important, dude, I just saw this thing the other day, and it was like this little girl, like a little toddler, Penelope, Valentina's age. And like, there were some subtitles there, and it said, I wish you stared at me and held me the same way that you hold your cell phone.
Oh, wow.
Dude, how about that?
I guess it's a hard
dude. A little sad girl, a little sad toddler. And I'm like, holy cow, man, if that doesn't hit you right in the heart, like, I don't know what does. So, dude, you think about that, like how addicted are people to their cell? Like, just put it away. I've almost aligned my cell phone with like toxicity, as if it's like, it's toxic. It's like spreading disease when it's up against my phone, or when it's up against my ear, or when I'm looking at it. Like, and because I've correlated it with just like negativity and negative energy, I don't like being by it. Like, so it's over here across my desk right now because I don't want it anywhere near me, because it feels negative every time it's around, because I've trained myself to think that way. Obviously it's a necessary tool for business and life and all that kind of stuff, but man, it is toxic when it comes to relationships, right? And really connecting at a deeper level, and creating that awareness with your family. So no, 100%. Well, like my final question was going to be, what does legacy mean to you guys? But you guys already answered that, right? Christy, anything that you can add, or you want to add to the whole legacy piece and impact that you want to make on the world, Valentina? And
I think beyond that is like living it is then helping others in any way that we can. So I think that's why we decided to do the podcast, and why, we get these little text messages. Hey, I really enjoyed that. I'm changing this, or I'm doing that differently. And just seeing that come to fruition with people that are listening, or people that are watching, because just like our kids are watching, everybody else is watching too. And I think it's important to just be able to share that, for us at least, to be able to share that, even though sometimes it's, it's extra work, or it's uncomfortable, or it's whatever it is. I think just being able to have that impact on others and share anything and everything that we can is just feels really good.
When you have the ability, you have the responsibility, right?
And the document feels good too. Like, imagine your daughter, Penelope and Hudson, looking at all your podcasts and saying, dude, look at what dad was doing. Look at the impact that it's making. Yeah. And so, like, it's almost like a selfish reason we're doing the podcast. It's like, it's great for us because, like, one day I know she's going to listen to it and it's like, well, so that's daddy and mommy living. That's how they made a decision about that, So it's been great for us.
I love it, man. That's so good. Well, if you guys, any listeners out there, you got to listen to the Both on Board podcast. Ray and Christy do an amazing job. They're both obviously individually amazing, incredible people. And as a couple, you guys are even better together and making a positive impact on the world. So I appreciate all the value you guys provide, all the value you guys convey, and, just paying it forward and making an impact, and being awesome individuals. So thank you guys for being on the show. Any last words?
Good. Thank you for having us.
Good. Thank you for having us. We love you. You know how we feel about you, man. We appreciate you, even though we give you some shit. We love you.
Likewise.
Yeah, I really love to be your best.
Yeah.
I love that. It's be, meaning not doing. It's being, and it's your best. You're not competing. You're not comparing.
You don't have to be just
do you to your best ability, right? Live to your fullest potential. That's it. If you do that, I think you've lived a legacy, and I think you're going to leave your legacy.
I love it, man. I love it. Christy, Ray, love you guys. Thank you so much for being here.
Appreciate you, my man.
All right, everybody. That's legacy relationships, living real legacy. This is what it's really all about. So hope you guys have a ton of value. I know I got a ton of value, took a ton of notes personally, and can't wait to share this with my wife. And I would encourage anybody, share this with your spouse, right? And listen to this episode together. This is going to be something that's really impactful, really powerful for you. And then take the next step, subscribe to Both on Board, Ray and Christy's podcast, and plug in you guys do events once in a while too, don't you?
Yeah.
We're figuring out what to do with Both on Board, but right now we're just adding value and serving the community, and we're getting a lot of great feedback. So we'll figure that out over time. Right now we're just adding value.
Be posted, man. Yeah, because it's powerful stuff and really important stuff, especially for entrepreneurs who are trying to navigate this space when there's not a lot of support out there in the outside world. So appreciate you guys. Love you guys. And until next time.
Thank you.
Tim. Appreciate you, brother.